Welcome. This is the Youth Zone Show, and I am your host, Teresia Gitao. Today, we are joined by Father Emmanuel Mulu, who belongs to the Order of Preachers, that is the Dominicans, of the Vicariate of Eastern Africa. He is the parish priest of St. Catherine's of Siena here at Kitusuru, which belongs to the Archdiocese of Nairobi. He is the advisor of the Holy See to UNEP and UN Habitat at the Embassy of the Holy See, that is the Nunciature in Nairobi. And also, he is the coordinator for peace and justice for Dominicans in Africa and a member of the International Dominican Commission for Justice and Peace. Father Emmanuel.
Welcome.
Karibu sana.
Welcome also to our parish,
Yes.
Kisuru.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Karibu. And first of all, Father, just before we continue with this conversation, I am wondering, what is environment? Just to the youth, what is environment?
Simply put, environment is the surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
That is where we find ourselves, the conditions in which we find ourselves. That is when we talk about environment, we shall speak about things like air, water, soil, all those things that are around us. And of course, we have the trees and many other things. Anything that is surrounding us, that God has given us in terms of nature, that is what we refer to as environment.
And Father, as I was reading your bio, there is that part where I mentioned the advisor to the Holy See. And what I'm wondering is, what is the difference between the permanent representative and the permanent observer at UNEP?
The United Nations is a group or an organization of nations.
Yes.
And there are permanent representatives, that is the permanent members, that is the states, but we also have the permanent observers. We have currently at least 2 states that have observers, that is the Holy See, represented by the Vatican City State, and the state of the Palestine. Those are observers. And the difference is in the membership. The first group, the representatives, are permanent members. These are members who make decisions. They vote on decisions. The observer states, and the rest of the observers could be other different organizations. They air their views. They air their opinions. But when it comes to voting for decisions, they do not vote. They do not have a right to vote. For the observer mission of the Holy See to UNEP and to all the other headquarters of the UN, whereby we as the Holy See are observers, it is the Holy See that decided to be observer. It's a state which can still decide to be a permanent member. But the Holy See decided to be an observer at the UN so that it can retain its state of neutrality. Remember, the Holy See represents the church.
Yes, yes.
And the church has always to be neutral, especially when there are issues that may be divisive. And the church has taken one, supporting one side over the other. It can also divide the church. So because of that, the church decided to be an observer, whereby we are not involved in voting in some of those decisions made at the UN, and in our case at the United Nations Environment Program.
And looking at that, because you've said about the Catholic Church being an observer, I'm also wondering, do other religions get to be a permanent observer to the United Nations Environment Program?
The other religions can be there
Yes.
by virtue of being organizations. We still have Catholic organizations who are accredited to the UN and to UNEP for our case. But why the Holy See is an observer state is because the nature of the Holy See is itself a state. So the Catholic Church is represented by the Vatican City State. The other religions, they do not have a state like we have in the Catholic Church. And that makes the whole difference.
Okay.
Yes.
And looking at that, I am wondering, so what now is the role of the Holy See at UNEP?
The Holy See at UNEP does at least two important and key things. One is to influence the decisions at the UN Environment Program, decisions that favor humanity over and above selfish national interests. We know very well that at the international system, international level, all nations normally represent their national interests, and these national interests can be selfish at times.
Yes.
So the Holy See is there to make sure that once those interests come, then they are geared towards service to humanity. And the second is to lobby for these decisions that are going to be taken or going to be voted for to be decisions that serve the same humanity and at least preserve the human values and Christian values and Catholic values for that matter. For instance, if a decision is to be taken about pollution,
Yes.
then we have to say yes, pollution has to be reduced. But you'll find probably there are countries who will say no, we need some time to continue doing production in our industries. When they do production in their industries, when they are doing manufacturing, there are a lot of gases that are emitted.
Yes.
The Holy See will be there and say, try to look for an alternative to this method, which is producing a lot of fumes that are polluting the air. So that is how the Holy See does or influences or lobbies the rest of the states, so that once they are going to do voting, they vote for those decisions that do not harm humanity. Exactly.
And just listening to you, I'm wondering, is there a difference between influencing a decision and lobbying for a decision to be made?
Yes, it is a thin difference.
Yes.
It's a very thin difference to influence, because when you're influencing, as I said, we talk to different states.
Yes.
And these different states, when we are talking to them to make sure that they are doing this decision, make that decision, that one is, we can call it lobbying, because you talk to a different state one by one, especially those who are Catholic friendly,
Yes.
which are, they do not go much against the church. But when we are influencing, it's through the statements we make, especially at the plenary. During the UN meetings, when there is the plenary, we make statements, and those statements can be used by the rest of the states when they are voting, either for or against. Yes.
But now, Father, you've used a big word that I'm interested in, plenary.
Yes.
What is plenary?
Plenary is a word used when delegations of different states at the UN meet together under one roof, or during these days, because we are having online virtual meetings, all the states are represented. This is in contradistinction to different groups, or when the plenary is divided into different groups to go and deal with different themes of a whole issue that is under discussion. So these different groups will go and deal with different thematic areas, and later they bring them into the plenary. The plenary is like the committee of the whole, the whole delegation.
Yes.
All the delegates are present. So that is the plenary, over and above the groups which could be dealing with those different themes.
And just picking from what you've said, because I'll just try to help our viewer and also our listener to understand, what are we talking about when you're talking about different thematic areas?
Different thematic areas means like when we have a topic or a theme for discussion. For instance, Next week we are going to begin the UNEA 5.2. And the theme for UNEA 5.2 is strengthening actions for nature to achieve the sustainable development goals.
Yes.
That is the theme.
Yes.
That is what will be discussed at the plenary. But under that, for us to achieve the goal for which we have come, it has to be subdivided. Those subdivisions are the ones we call themes or thematic areas. For instance, there is marine litter and plastic pollution.
Yes.
There is something to do with the nature and biodiversity and the green recovery. Such kind are the ones we will call themes. So these themes, once they are divided, they will be given to different groups to go and deal with them and bring the solutions. So that when we come to the plenary, then we have resolutions about each of those themes, so that we can now have handled in totality the whole theme. Yes.
And listening to you, when you're saying people are going into different groups, what I am hearing is it has been in process.
Yes.
It's something that has been occurring.
Sure.
So they go into different groups, or is it now that they're meeting for the first time at that point, they're going to different places to have all these discussions? So which one is which?
The discussions,
Yes.
especially for UNEA 5.2, began long time ago. Actually, why it is being called 5.2 is because we already had 5.1. 5.1 was held last year, and because it was online, the delegates said that they cannot conclude UNEA 5 without having a physical meeting. So that is why we are calling it 5.2, so that the delegates can come together. So the discussions did start long time ago, even last year. And so once we meet as delegates, we shall be giving or reading the resolutions that the delegates have come up with, so that the plenary can pass them. And then once they are passed, then they are publicized, and each nation will be now obliged to implement the resolutions that will be brought up during the conclusion of UNEA 5.2.
And I'm finding that interesting, because in the next question, I would like you to explain what is UNEA 5.2, and also on that, what does the Holy See want to achieve out of UNEA 5.2?
Yeah, UNEA 5.2 is being called UNEA 5.2. It's the United Nations Environmental Assembly. And this assembly is held after every 2 years. It is the highest body, decision-making body for environment in the world. Of course, constituted by the UN General Assembly. So this is 5.2, meaning it is the second part of UNEA 5, because they are named according to when they started. We had UNEA 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we are 5. So after this, the next UNEA will be UNEA 6.
Okay.
Exactly. So what does the Holy See want to achieve out of UNEA 5.2?
Yes.
First, I am not the spokesperson of the Holy See, and I am not competent to speak on behalf of the Holy See, because like here in Nairobi, we have the permanent observer, who is the nuncio, His Excellency Ubetus, who will be delivering the statement of the Holy See to UNEA 5.2. Mine, as you said, I am just an advisor to that mission of the Holy See to the UN Environment Program here in Nairobi. But what I think probably ought to be addressed from the point of view of the church in general is to push for UN environment and this assembly, that is 5.2, to deliver on the previous commitments. We realize this is 5.
Yes.
We had 1, 2, 3, 4. Under 5.1.
Yes.
The resolutions that have been made there, have they been implemented? We had, for instance, issues to do with addressing environmental challenges, sustainable infrastructure, to curb marine litter. Those were resolutions made in 5.4, in UNEA 4, UNEA 4, sorry. Have they been implemented? what the case whereby the Holy See pushes for delivery of those resolutions first before we make more resolutions at UNEA 5.2. And secondly, the key is the Holy See to push for policies that involve young people. And why I'm talking about young people is because the young people ensure the continuity of policies. That once a policy has been made, then the young people, they have actually the energy and they are available to implement it. So when we make policies and we do not involve the young people who represent the future in the present, then we are saying we are making a policy that will end immediately. So if the Holy See pushes for those two things, at least we'll feel that we have achieved something during this UNEA 5.2. If those two at least are adopted.
And just listening to what you're saying about the influence or
the lobbying.
Yes, the lobbying of the Holy See. I'm wondering, are you able to compare the influence of the Holy See between UNFCCC and UNEP?
First, we know that the UNFCCC, that is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change,
yes, is
an established in international or multilateral environmental treaty. And this treaty or a protocol or an agreement is part and parcel of UNEP.
Yes.
It's like a tool which is going to achieve some intended objective. And so we cannot actually divorce it from UNEP because it is part and parcel of UN environment.
Yes.
So we cannot like compare and contrast it with UNEP because it is one of the tools which UNEP uses so that it can reach that particular objective. You realize when we talk about environment, it's so diverse, such that we cannot use only the one tool to address all the issues. When I was beginning, I started saying that we talk of water, is environment. We talk of air, is environment. We talk of soil, it is environment. And so there are different tools that are meant so as to address those different issues. And one of them is this one, which deals with issues of climate change. So just the way the Holy See is an observer at UN environment, the same it is also an observer when we come to COP, that is UNFCCC.
Yes.
But at least in 2015, the Holy See showed signs of acceding to this or being party to this convention of COP, whereby it will be now probably a full member, so that whatever decisions are made, it is part and parcel. So far, it has not yet, but we expect in the near future, it is going to be part and parcel of this treaty or this protocol.
Just a question. You're saying to be a full member?
Yes.
You're talking about the Holy See being a full member?
A full member of
UNFCCC. So, Father, what do you mean by that? Because
this one being a treaty or an agreement on climate change, there might be no way out whereby we can make a decision that is divisive. It is about safeguarding humanity by preserving the climate, isn't it?
Yes.
By this, it means when the Holy See decides to be a member, like a member state in the UN, then it will be also able to vote on the decisions that are made during the UNFCCC. Exactly. That is what it means.
So that means that at some point, okay, no, this is a question. Will it come to a point where when the church votes on one side, will it cause any divisions?
Well, on this matter, it's not going to cause any division. And that is why the church is taking this time to contemplate whether it will cause division or not. That's why it is taking this time. So I'm speaking about the future, that there is that possibility. So when you see it is not, then probably it might have decided now, it might have seen that it may cause what? Divisions. But when you see it now coming to be a member of this treaty, of this protocol, under UN environment, then get to know that it has used its wisdom to measure, to weigh, and know that once it is a member, it's not going to cause any division.
And just as we try to wrap up,
yes,
as you had mentioned, the Holy See is trying to advocate for the voices of the youth to be heard. And as we see, the past weekend, that is on the 19th and the 20th, the Global Youth Environment Assembly started. And also it's going to continue to this weekend, that is starting from the 25th to the 27th. And I am wondering, as a priest, let's say you look like a youth. You look like a youth.
I look like a youth, but I'm not youth.
Father, why are you discounting? We're trying to praise you.
Okay.
My question is, what advice would you give to the youths, and especially those who are dealing with environmental governance?
Okay, the Youth Environmental Assembly is happening, of course, between 19th and 20th, and then from 25th to 27th.
Yes.
And one of the key things that the youth got to know is that young people play a key role in multilateralism. When we talk of multilateralism, it means it's an agreement of many different states.
Yes.
But not only states, but also the different organizations. And everywhere you find there are young people in that multilateralism. And so their perspective and solutions are necessary when we are talking about issues of environment. In the world now, when we look at the population of the young people, of course, they are more than the rest of the people. So necessarily they are everywhere. And when environment is affected, who is affected more? It is the youth.
Yes.
Okay? So what I can tell them, especially the young people out there, is to make sure that they become part and parcel of this, to follow the discussions that are going on, and they see whether their voices are included in the discussion.
Yes.
Because if their voices are not included in the discussion, and as I said about the Holy See, pushing, lobbying, advocating for the young people to be heard, then policies are going to be made that are not going to change the lives of the young people positively. It's like right now we are talking about an election here in our country.
Yes.
We have so many young people making noise there, following the politicians. But the question we need to ask, when the time comes for making the decision, are they involved in the decision? When it comes to voting, will they vote? That is the question we need to be always asking. And it is at the same point when we talk about environment, where the discussions about environment are going on. Do we have the voice of the young people there? That's where we want to push them, to make sure that they follow the discussions and make sure that their voices are heard. We would wish a case whereby the UN environment partners with young people's organizations, because I know they have their organizations, they have groups, that they make sure that they involve them when they are making their policies. They can even partner with them in terms of even funding the young people's groups, so that the decisions that they have made, the young people can implement. And this is the call I make to the young people outside there, that there are so many things to do about the environment going on, but there is no one who will be going looking for them. It is for them to come together and say, this is what we want to do. How can you support us? And it is going to happen.
And just listening to what you've said, for them to be included, my question is, many a times, and as youths, as we try to also advocate to be heard, because the complaints that we hear, that also I have been privileged to just know, is that yes, we are being seen but not heard. So now the thing that you're doing is to go out on the streets, to go and protest. So now my question would be, how then can we try and make ourselves be seen if at all now going out on the streets is something that is causing people to call us as, to just tag names,
Okay.
you know? Yes.
One of the things that the young people can do is to focus. And also the leadership needs to focus them on issues, especially environmental issues. For instance, nowadays most of the young people are addressed through social media.
Yes.
They also address their issues through social media, isn't it? How many young people do write anything in social media about environment?
Very few.
Very few.
Yes.
Why? Because they are occupied by many other things. You talk about memes, updates, so forth, such kind of things.
Yes.
Nobody will update anything about environment. And this focus I'm talking about is, if you are to update issues in the social media, and we see there is that focus thing that the young people are doing, then the policymakers will see, yes, this thing needs to be addressed because most of the young people are dealing with it.
Yes.
I want to give you an example.
Please.
Right now in Kenya, there is a discussion, hashtag lower food prices, isn't it?
Yes.
And it is catching fire. I can assure you by next week the government will be addressing this thing. True or false?
True.
Once it is put there, it is a pressure. In a foreign policy formulation, the person at the grassroots plays a big role, and they play that big role because of the push. Now, if the young people can play that big role in pushing issues of environment that are affecting them, and through those organizations, they let us push for this matter that is affecting us, the policy makers, I can assure you, they are going to change their minds and make sure that they address the issue that the youth are dealing with. So, when the government tells the youth that we do not want you to go and demonstrate because it doesn't bring any change, probably it is because once they look at the social media accounts of the youth, there is nothing like what they are championing for outside there. So there needs to be that tandem and that pressure so that issues of the youth can be included in decision making and in policies.
And that brings us to the end of our interview. And I would want you to just summarize in 2 minutes, Father, number one, how can we find you if anyone has questions for you?
As you said during the introduction, I'm the parish priest here at St. Catherine of Siena, Kitisuru. I also work at the Embassy of the Holy See as the advisor here in Westlands. But I also have my contacts. Maybe I will send it to you so that you can give to the people.
Yes.
If you want me to share my phone number, I can also share. Yeah, and then people can always reach me.
That is, are you on social media?
Yes, I am on social media.
Please tell us, how can we find you? Like, what are your social media handles? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Malipopote, wherever you are, Father.
I am in Facebook, just Mulu at Facebook. That is where you find me. And then I'm also on WhatsApp. My phone number. You can get to me there.
That's why better we try to keep it as private as possible.
Yes, exactly. But I'm on Facebook.
On Facebook,
yes.
At Mulu.
Yes.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And just to remind our dear listener and our dear viewer is that as youths, we have power. When we sit down, we can be heard. And also to remind you that as a youth, wherever you are, you have a sphere of influence. And my encouragement to you would be, let us try to make those many little noises, because eventually we will inevitably be heard. And also to remind you that when it comes to matters environment, the resources that we have today, it is the debt to the future generations. This is the Youth Zone Show, and I have been your host, Teresia Gitao.